The alarm rang through the command center of Mining Station 7. Commander. Zextharas' 4 eyes focused on the main screen as red warning lights flashed around him. His scaled hands moved quickly over the control panel, trying to understand. What was happening? Report, he ordered, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had kept peace in this sector for 20 years. Unknown vessel approaching the outer markers, came the reply from his sensor operator. Speed is impossible. Energy readings are unlike anything in our database. Zextharas studied the readings. The ship was moving faster than any vessel he had ever seen. It was not using the standard jump drives that all civilized species use for travel between stars. Instead, it seemed to be pushing through space using some kind of continuous thrust system. Have they responded to our greeting signals? He asked. No, sir. We have sent the standard welcome message in all known languages. No response. The commander felt a chill run down his spine. In 300 years of galactic peace, no unknown ship had ever ignored diplomatic contact. The hegemony had strict rules about this. All space travel required proper identification and permission. Send a warning message. Tell them they are entering protected space without authorization. Meanwhile, 18 light hours away, Captain. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Dakota. The ship hummed around him with the sound of fusion engines working at full power. They had been traveling for 18 months, following signals that suggested intelligent life existed in this star system. Captain, we are receiving some kind of transmission, said Lieutenant Amy Carter from her communication station. Her fingers worked over the controls, trying to make sense of the alien signals. Can you understand it? Morrison asked. He was a tall man with gray hair who had spent most of his career in Earth's space program. This was humanity's first trip to another star system, and he knew the importance of getting things right. It is some kind of mathematical pattern, sir. The computer is trying to decode it, but it will take time. Morrison nodded. Keep working on it. What about our own signals? We have been broadcasting our standard greeting message for the past 6 hours, no response yet. The captain walked to the main viewing screen. Space looked empty, but he knew there were ships out there. The Dakota's sensors had detected at least 12 vessels moving toward their position. None of them matched any design in Earth's computer files. Sir, called out Navigation Officer Tom Wilson. Those ships are moving to surround us. Morrison felt his stomach tighten. Are they showing any hostile intent? Hard to say, sir. They are not targeting us with weapons, but they are definitely positioning themselves in what looks like a blockade. Formation. Back on Mining Station 7, Commander Zextharas was growing more worried by the minute. The unknown ship continued to ignore all communication attempts. Worse, it was not slowing down as it approached the mining operation. Sir, we are receiving a new transmission from the unknown vessel, his communications officer reported. Put it on the main screen. The transmission was unlike anything they had ever received. Instead of the usual mathematical patterns or simple pictographs that new species typically used for first contact, this was a complex stream of data that seemed to contain multiple information types. What are they trying to tell us? Zextharas asked. Unknown, sir. The patterns do not match any known communication protocol. The commander made a decision that would change galactic history. Send them our standard demand for identification. If they do not respond within 1 hour, we will consider them hostile. On the USS Dakota, Lieutenant Amy Carter was struggling with the alien transmissions. The translation computer was having trouble with the basic structure of the alien language. Every time she thought she was making progress, new symbols would appear that changed the meaning of everything else. Captain, I think I have something, she said. The aliens seem to be demanding something from us. The word pattern suggests they want us to identify ourselves and state our intentions. Good. Send them our standard first contact package. Tell them we are explorers from Earth seeking peaceful contact with other intelligent species. Amy worked for several minutes, encoding the message using the mathematical principles they had developed for interstellar communication. She sent humanity's first message to an alien civilization. The message was received at mining station 7 15 minutes later. When the translation computers processed it, the results sent shockwaves through the command center. Sir, the aliens are claiming to be from a place called Earth. They say they are explorers, but they are also demanding that we acknowledge their right to be here. Commander Zex Thara read the translation carefully. The message seemed to contain threats, mixed with claims of peaceful intention. The aliens were saying they had the right to enter hegemony space without permission. They were also describing weapons and military capabilities in what appeared to be a warning. This makes no sense, he said. Are they threatening us or trying to negotiate? Unknown, sir. The language patterns are very aggressive compared to normal diplomatic contact. What neither side understood was that their translation computers were making critical errors. The human message, which was meant to be a friendly greeting, was being interpreted as a demand for territorial rights. The alien response, which was a standard request for identification, was being read by the Dakota's computers as a threat to board and search their vessel. Captain Morrison read the translated alien message with growing concern. They are demanding we submit to inspection and surrender our weapons. That doesn't sound very friendly. Sir, maybe it is just a misunderstanding, suggested Amy Carter. First contact protocols always have problems. Maybe, but we cannot let them board our ship. We have no idea what their intentions are. Morrison made his own fateful decision. Send another message. Tell them we are peaceful, but we will not submit to boarding or inspection. We are willing to meet at a neutral location to discuss trade and diplomatic relations. When this message was translated at Mining Station 7, Commander Zex Thara saw what appeared to be a direct refusal to follow hegemony law, combined with demands for special treatment. They are refusing to follow standard procedures, he told his staff, and they are insisting on dictating the terms of contact. Both commanders were experienced leaders who had successfully handled many difficult situations, but neither had ever faced a challenge like this. They were trying to communicate across not just language barriers, but completely different ways of thinking about space travel, territorial rights, and diplomatic protocol. As the hour deadline approached, both sides prepared for what they believed would be necessary defensive action. The stage was set for a tragic misunderstanding that would change the course of galactic civilization forever. The emergency meeting at Earth Defense Command had been going on for 6 hours. Admiral Lisa Hayes sat at the head of the long table, looking at the worried faces of military leaders and scientists from around the world. The holographic display in the center of the room showed the last known position of the USS Dakota, now 18 months away from Earth. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, said Dr. Kevin Barnes, rubbing his tired eyes. Captain Morrison has encountered an alien empire that spans multiple star systems, and they think we are hostile invaders? That appears to be the situation, Admiral Hayes replied. The quantum communication relay is working, but the messages we are receiving paint a very concerning picture. General Paul Anderson leaned forward in his chair. The aliens have surrounded our ship with at least 12 vessels. They are demanding that Captain Morrison surrender his crew for what they call processing. That does not sound like a peaceful first contact to me. Dr. Barnes shook his head. There has to be a misunderstanding. No intelligent species would immediately assume hostile intent from a single exploration vessel. Maybe not, said Admiral Hayes, but we cannot take chances with human lives. Captain Morrison and his crew of 200 people are completely cut off from any support. The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. The USS Dakota was humanity's most advanced spacecraft, but it was designed for exploration, not warfare. If the aliens decided to attack, there was nothing Earth could do to help. "What are our options?" asked Dr. Barnes. General Anderson stood up and activated a new display. "We have been working on this since the first distress signal arrived. The USS Liberty and her battle group can be ready to depart within 2 weeks." The display showed Earth's newest and most powerful warship. The USS Liberty was 3 times larger than the Dakota and carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. It had been built as humanity's insurance policy against unknown threats in deep space. A military response could make things worse, Dr. Barnes argued. "If we send warships, the aliens will definitely see us as aggressive." "They already see us as aggressive," General Anderson replied. "At least this way, Captain Morrison will have backup when negotiations fail." Admiral Hayes looked around the table. "The decision has been made. We will send the Liberty Battle Group to provide support for the Dakota. At the same time, we will prepare a diplomatic mission to try to resolve this peacefully." In the Kepler system, Captain Morrison was dealing with his own crisis. The alien blockade had been in place for 3 days, and the situation was getting worse by the hour. More alien ships arrived every few hours, until the Dakota was surrounded by over 30 vessels. "Captain, we are receiving another transmission," said Lieutenant Amy Carter. Her voice was tired from days of trying to decode alien messages. "What do they want now?" Morrison asked. "The same thing as before. They want us to shut down our engines and prepare for boarding. They say it is required by something they call hegemony law." Chief Engineer Maria Rodriguez looked up from her console. "Captain, I have been studying their ships with our sensors. Their technology is impressive, but it is different from ours in important ways." "How so?" "They use some kind of energy-based propulsion system. Very efficient, but their ships do not seem to have the same kind of armor or weapons that we would expect from military vessels." Morrison considered this information. "Are you saying they might not be warships?" "It is possible, sir. Most of their energy signatures look like civilian vessels that have been modified with weapon systems." Navigation Officer Tom Wilson called out from his station. "Captain, I have finished my analysis of the star charts we gathered from their transmissions. This alien empire is huge. They control at least 40 star systems that we know of." The captain felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Humanity had stumbled into contact with a galactic civilization that was far larger and more advanced than anything they had imagined. One wrong move could result in Earth being seen as a threat to an empire that spanned dozens of worlds. "Sir," said Amy Carter, "I am receiving a priority transmission from Earth Defense Command." Morrison read the message with growing relief and concern. Relief that help was coming, but concern about what sending warships might mean for peaceful relations. "What are your orders, Captain?" asked Maria Rodriguez. "We continue trying to establish peaceful communication, but we also prepare for the possibility that this situation might get worse before it gets better." 3 weeks later, the USS Liberty dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. Admiral Ryan Clark stood on the bridge of the massive warship, studying the tactical display that showed the standoff between the Dakota and the alien fleet. "Status report," he ordered. "The Dakota is still surrounded by alien vessels. No shots have been fired, but the situation appears to be a standoff," reported his tactical officer. Admiral Clark had served in the Earth Defense Force for 25 years. He had fought in the Mars Colonial War and the Belt Pirate conflicts, but he had never faced anything like this. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from Captain Morrison," his communications officer announced. Morrison's face appeared on the main screen. He looked tired but determined. "Admiral Clark, thank you for coming. The situation here is complicated." "Give me a full briefing, Captain." The aliens call themselves the hegemony. They seem to be a coalition of different species that has existed for hundreds of years. They believe we are violating their territorial laws by being here without permission. And what do you think? I think this is all a big misunderstanding. Sir, but the aliens are not backing down, and neither are we. Admiral Clark nodded. We brought diplomatic specialists with us. Dr. Barnes is leading a first contact team. Maybe we can sort this out. I hope so, sir. Because I have a feeling that if we get this wrong, it could mean trouble for all of humanity. As Admiral Clark studied the alien fleet surrounding the Dakota, he realized that this was more than just a first contact situation. Humanity had stumbled into a galactic community that had existed for centuries without them. The question was whether there was room for humans in this community, or whether they would be seen as dangerous outsiders who needed to be contained. The arrival of the Liberty Battle Group did not go unnoticed by the hegemony forces. Within hours, their own reinforcements began arriving from across their territory. Ships from a dozen different species converged on the Kepler system, each bringing their own weapons and their own fears about what these aggressive humans might do next. Both sides were now committed to a course of action that neither really wanted. The stage was set for the first galactic war in 300 years, all because of a misunderstanding that nobody knew how to fix. The first shot was fired by accident. Lieutenant Commander Pete Johnson was adjusting the targeting system on the USS Dakota when a power surge caused the forward railgun to discharge. The metal projectile streaked across space at 30,000 miles per second and punched through the hull of the nearest hegemony patrol ship. What happened? Captain Morrison shouted as alarms blared throughout his ship. Accidental discharge from gun mount 2, sir, Johnson reported, his face pale with shock. The alien ship is venting atmosphere. On the bridge of the hegemony vessel, Commander Rickstall was dying. The human projectile had torn through his ship's energy shields like they were made of paper. None of their defensive systems had been designed to stop solid objects moving at such incredible speeds. All ships, he managed to broadcast before the bridge lost power. The humans have opened fire. They are using kinetic weapons. Repeat, kinetic weapons. The message spread through the hegemony fleet in seconds. For 300 years, galactic warfare had been conducted with energy weapons that could be stopped by shields and deflected by armor. No one had used solid projectiles as weapons since the early days of space travel. Admiral Ryan Clark watched the tactical display with growing horror as the alien fleet began to move. Captain Morrison, report your status. It was an accident. Admiral, we did not mean to fire. Try to tell them that. All ships, prepare for defensive action. The hegemony response was swift but ineffective. Plasma cannons and laser batteries opened fire on the human ships, their energy beams lighting up space in brilliant colors. The Liberty's armor absorbed most of the hits, while her shields deflected the rest. Damage report, Admiral Clark called. Out, minor hull scoring on decks 7 and 8. No casualties. Their weapons are not very effective against our armor. Clark realized with growing alarm that the aliens had never fought against opponents like humans. Their weapons and defenses were designed for fighting other energy weapon users. They had no experience with the brutal simplicity of kinetic warfare. Sir, the alien formation is breaking up, his tactical officer reported. They appear to be trying to ram us. All batteries, open fire. Target their engines and weapons systems only. Try not to destroy them completely. The Liberty's guns spoke with thunder that echoed through the ship's hull. Railguns fired solid slubs of depleted uranium at incredible speeds, while missile launchers sent nuclear-tipped torpedoes streaking toward alien vessels. The results were devastating. Hegemony ships that had survived centuries of peaceful operation were torn apart by weapons they had never imagined. Their energy shields, designed to deflect plasma and lasers, were useless against solid projectiles that simply punched through them. Commander Zexthara watched from Mining Station 7 as his carefully maintained peace was shattered in minutes. Half of his patrol fleet was already destroyed or disabled. The humans fought with a savage efficiency that terrified him. "Get me a communication link to the human ships," he ordered. "Sir, they are not responding to our signals." "Then broadcast on all frequencies. Tell them we surrender." But the message never reached the human fleet. The battle had created too much electromagnetic interference for normal communication systems to work properly. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Murphy led the first boarding action in galactic history. His Marines had trained for ship-to-ship combat, but they had never expected to use those skills against aliens. "Remember, we want prisoners, not bodies," he told his team as they prepared to board a disabled hegemony vessel. "These might be the only aliens we ever get to talk to." The airlock cut through the alien hull with surprising ease. Murphy and his Marines found themselves in corridors designed for beings much taller than humans. The artificial gravity was lighter than Earth normal, making their movements quick and unpredictable. The first alien they encountered was an insect-like creature with 4 arms and compound eyes. It raised what appeared to be an energy weapon, but Murphy's team was faster. 3 rifle shots put the alien down before it could fire. "These corridors are too narrow for their weapons," Murphy reported to his squad. "They cannot bring their heavy guns to bear in close quarters." The Marines moved through the ship with practiced efficiency. They had trained for boarding actions on human vessels where every corridor might hide an enemy with automatic weapons. The aliens, however, had never developed tactics for fighting inside their own ships. Within an hour, Murphy's team had captured the entire crew of the alien vessel. The hegemony personnel had surrendered as soon as they realized that their energy weapons were nearly useless in the confined spaces of their own ship. Back on the Liberty, Chief Engineer Maria Rodriguez was making a discovery that would change everything. She had been studying the wreckage of destroyed alien ships, trying to understand their technology. "Admiral, you need to see this," she called Clark to the engineering section. "What have you found?" "The aliens use a form of quantum computing for all their major systems. Ship navigation, weapons control, life support, everything runs on quantum processors." "So what does that mean for us?" Maria pointed to a bank of monitors showing electromagnetic readings. "Our fusion reactors put out a specific type of electromagnetic field. When alien ships get too close to us, their quantum computers start to malfunction." Admiral Clark stared at the data. "Are you saying our presence alone disrupts their technology?" "Exactly. And if we adjust our reactor output to specific frequencies, we can deliberately interfere with their systems from a distance." The implications were staggering. Humanity had stumbled into a galactic civilization that was completely vulnerable to their technology. Not because human weapons were more advanced, but because they operated on completely different principles. "Implement the modifications immediately," Clark ordered, "and send the technical data to all ships in the fleet." The second phase of the battle began an hour later. Human ships, now deliberately broadcasting interference patterns, approached the remaining hegemony vessels. One by one, the alien ships lost power and drifted helplessly in space. Captain Morrison watched from the Dakota as the entire alien fleet was disabled without firing another shot. "This is not warfare," he said quietly. "This is just bullying." But the damage was already done. The hegemony mining operation was destroyed. Hundreds of aliens were dead or wounded, and the survivors were now prisoners of a species they had never imagined could exist. In the ruins of Mining Station 7, Commander Zexthara sent one final message to hegemony space before his communication systems failed. "The humans are not like us. They fight with weapons we cannot defend against. They have technology that destroys our own just by being near it. Warn the Council. Warn everyone. Nothing will be the same." The message reached Hegemony Capital Worlds 12 hours later, carried by the fastest ships in their fleet. For the first time in 3 centuries, the galactic community faced the prospect of a war they might not be able to win. The Emergency Council meeting on Hegemony Prime had been in session for 2 days. Representatives from 17 different species sat around the massive circular chamber, their voices raised in heated debate. For the first time in 300 years, they were discussing war. Ambassador Velther of the Crystalline Domain stood at the center of the chamber. Her translucent body caught the light from the chamber's energy panels, casting rainbow patterns on the walls. She had been chosen to speak because her people were known for their wisdom and calm thinking. "Fellow council members," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation system. "We face a crisis unlike any in our recorded history. A single species has destroyed one of our installations and defeated our entire patrol fleet." High Counselor Thane of the Mechanical Collective raised his metal hand. "The reports from the survivors are difficult to believe. They claim the humans use solid projectiles as weapons and that their technology disrupts our quantum systems simply by existing." "The evidence is clear," replied Ambassador Velther. "We have examined the wreckage and interviewed the survivors. These humans fight with methods we abandoned centuries ago, but they have perfected those methods in ways we never imagined." Elder Suk of the Aquatic Federation spoke from her water-filled speaking pod. "The question is not how they fight, but what we do about it. Do we mobilize our fleets and drive them from our space?" "With what?" asked Counselor Drix of the Avian Republics. "Our weapons are useless against their armor. Our shields cannot stop their projectiles. Our computers fail when they get too close to their ships." The chamber fell silent as the representatives considered their options. The hegemony had not fought a real war in 3 centuries. Their military technology had been designed for keeping peace, not for fighting enemies who used completely different methods. "There is another option," said Ambassador Velther quietly. "We could try to communicate with them." "Communicate?" Counselor Thane's mechanical voice rose in disbelief. "They attacked our mining station without warning. They killed hundreds of our people. According to survivor reports, the first shot was fired by accident. The humans attempted to surrender afterwards, but our communication systems were damaged by the electromagnetic interference from their ships." The chamber erupted in debate again. Some representatives wanted immediate military action. Others argued for diplomatic solutions. A few suggested withdrawing from the affected systems entirely. Ambassador Velther raised her hand for silence. "I propose a diplomatic mission. Give me authority to negotiate with these humans. Let us find out what they want and whether peace is possible." The vote was close, but diplomacy won. Velther was given authority to speak for the entire hegemony in negotiations with the human fleet. Meanwhile, in the Kepler system, a very different kind of meeting was taking place aboard the USS Liberty. Dr. Kevin Barnes had finally arrived with his diplomatic team, and they were preparing for humanity's first formal contact with an alien civilization. "The situation is not what we expected," Admiral Clark explained to the assembled group. "We have defeated their fleet, but that was never our intention. Now we have to figure out how to talk to them without making things worse." Dr. Barnes studied the reports from the battle. "This is a disaster. We came here looking for peaceful contact, and instead we have started a war." "It was not intentional," said Captain Morrison. "The first shot was fired by accident. After that, everything happened too fast to stop." Dr. Rebecca Stone, the mission's linguist, looked up from her translation work. "I have been studying the alien communication patterns. I think I understand why there was so much confusion during the initial contact." "What did you find?" Dr. Barnes asked. "Their language is based on quantum probability states. A single word can have multiple meanings depending on the context and the speaker's intention. Our translation computers interpreted their peaceful messages as threats because we were looking for simple yes or no answers. Professor Alan White, the team's cultural anthropologist, nodded thoughtfully. That explains a lot. They probably saw our direct communication style as aggressive because we were not acknowledging the multiple possible meanings of their words. So this whole war started because of a translation error? Admiral Clark asked. More than that, Dr. Stone replied. It started because we have completely different ways of thinking about communication itself. The breakthrough came when Lieutenant Amy Carter detected an incoming transmission on a frequency that the aliens had never used before. The message was simple and direct, using mathematical concepts that could not be misunderstood. This is Ambassador Velther of the Hegemony Council. I request permission to meet with your leaders to discuss ending this conflict. Dr. Barnes worked for hours with his team to craft a response that could not be misinterpreted. They used the same mathematical approach, combined with visual symbols that conveyed peaceful intentions. This is Dr. Barnes representing the human expedition. We welcome the opportunity to meet and discuss peaceful relations. The meeting was arranged to take place on a small asteroid between the two fleets. Both sides brought minimal security and focused on creating an environment where real communication could happen. Ambassador Velther was unlike anything the humans had expected. Her crystalline body was beautiful but alien, and her way of speaking was formal and complex. Dr. Barnes had to concentrate carefully to follow her meaning. We must understand each other, she said through the translation system. Your species has capabilities that frighten us. We have capabilities that you do not yet understand. Both of our civilizations are at risk if we cannot find a way to coexist. We never intended to start a war, Dr. Barnes replied. We came here seeking peaceful contact with other intelligent species. Yet you brought warships. Only after our first contact went wrong. We thought you were threatening our people. Ambassador Velther studied the human delegation carefully. You speak of peace, but you fight with terrible efficiency. Your weapons destroyed our ships in minutes. Your technology disrupts our systems. Just by existing near them, Professor White leaned forward. May I ask you something? How long has it been since your people fought a real war? 300 years, Velther replied. We achieved peace among all our member species and have maintained it ever since. That explains a lot, Dr. Barnes said quietly. You have built a civilization based on peace, but you have forgotten how to defend it. The truth was painful for both sides to accept. The hegemony had created a wonderful society where different species lived and worked together in harmony. But that peace had made them vulnerable to anyone who still remembered how to fight. What do you propose? Ambassador Velther asked. We need to find a way for both our civilizations to benefit from contact, Dr. Barnes replied. You have knowledge we need. We have capabilities you lack. Perhaps we can help each other. And if we cannot reach an agreement? Dr. Barnes looked around the small meeting chamber. Then we will probably destroy each other. Your civilization will try to fight us and fail. Our civilization will expand into your territory and disrupt everything you have built. Ambassador Velther was quiet. For a long time, there is wisdom in your words. But many of my people will see any agreement with you as surrender to an aggressive species. And many of our people will see any agreement as limiting human expansion into space. Dr. Barnes admitted. The meeting continued for hours, but by the end, both sides understood that they had a choice. They could find a way to coexist, or they could destroy each other in a war that neither side really wanted. The question was whether their leaders would be wise enough to choose peace over pride. 6 months after the battle at Kepler, the galaxy looked very different. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of New Horizons Station, watching ships from 12 different species dock at the massive facility. Some were human vessels bringing supplies and personnel from Earth. Others were alien ships carrying diplomats, traders, and scientists eager to learn about human technology. The station itself was a symbol of the new reality. Built using both human engineering and hegemony quantum computing, it represented what could be achieved when two very different civilizations worked together instead of fighting each other. "Admiral, the morning briefing is ready," said Captain Lisa Hayes, who had been promoted to serve as Morrison's aide. She had once been Lieutenant Amy Carter, the communications officer who had struggled with those first alien transmissions. Now she was one of the few humans who could speak 3 different hegemony languages fluently. Morrison nodded and followed her to the briefing room. The daily meetings had become routine, but they still amazed him. Human officers sat next to alien delegates, discussing everything from trade agreements to joint scientific research projects. "What is on the agenda today?" Morrison asked. "Dr. Barnes wants to discuss the new cultural exchange program. Chief Rodriguez has an update on the joint technology projects. And Ambassador Velther has requested a private meeting about the Outer Rim situation." The mention of the Outer Rim made Morrison frown. Not all the changes in the galaxy had been positive. 3 hegemony species had withdrawn from the coalition entirely, refusing to accept the new reality of human presence in galactic affairs. They had retreated to the edge of known space, taking their technology and knowledge with them. "Any word from the Isolation Coalition?" Morrison asked. "Nothing official. But our intelligence sources suggest they are developing new weapons based on human designs." That was the price of contact, Morrison reflected. Knowledge could not be contained once it was released. The hegemony had learned about kinetic weapons and electromagnetic warfare. Some species wanted to use that knowledge to fight humans. Others wanted to use it to fight each other. The briefing room was filled with representatives from both civilizations. Dr. Kevin Barnes sat at one end of the table, surrounded by alien scientists and human anthropologists. His interspecies cultural exchange program had become one of the most important projects in known space. "The translation protocols are working better than we hoped," Dr. Barnes reported. "Dr. Stone's team has developed a universal translator that can handle 17 different alien languages with 90% accuracy." Chief Engineer Maria Rodriguez spoke next. "The joint technology projects are producing remarkable results. By combining human fusion technology with hegemony quantum computing, we have developed engines that are twice as efficient as anything either of our civilizations could build alone." Morrison listened to the reports with mixed feelings. The cooperation was wonderful, but it also meant that both civilizations were changing rapidly. Earth was no longer the isolated world it had been 18 months ago. Alien technology was revolutionizing everything from medicine to space travel. "What about the expansion program?" Morrison asked. Captain Hayes activated a holographic star map. 3 new joint exploration missions have launched this month. Each mission includes both human and alien crew members. They are investigating star systems beyond current hegemony territory. The map showed the expanding sphere of known space. Human ships were pushing the boundaries of exploration, but now they carried alien scientists and diplomats along with them. Future first contacts would be handled very differently than the disaster at Kepler. After the briefing, Morrison met privately with Ambassador Velther in his office. The crystalline alien had become his closest advisor on hegemony affairs, and one of the few beings who understood the complexity of managing relations between dozens of different species. "You wanted to discuss the Outer Rim situation?" Morrison asked. "Yes. We have received intelligence reports that concern me. The Isolation Coalition is not just developing new weapons. They are planning to test them against human targets." Morrison felt a chill. "Do we know which targets?" "The exploration ships heading toward the Andromeda Spiral. The isolationists see them as proof that humans are planning to expand beyond our galaxy." "That is ridiculous." Those ships are scientific missions, not military expansion. You know that. I know that. But the isolationists believe that all human exploration is really preparation for conquest. Morrison looked out at the busy docking bays where human and alien ships worked side by side. What do you recommend? We need to send a joint task force to intercept the isolationist fleet before they can attack the exploration ships. Both human and hegemony vessels working together. Show them that our alliance is real and permanent. The decision was not easy. Sending warships against former hegemony members could start another war. But allowing attacks on exploration vessels could destroy everything they had built. I will discuss it with Admiral Clark and the Earth Defense Council, Morrison said. But I think you are right. We cannot let fear and prejudice destroy the progress we have made. 3 weeks later, the Joint Task Force intercepted the isolationist fleet near the edge of the galaxy. The confrontation was tense but brief. When the isolationists saw human and alien ships operating together with perfect coordination, they realized that the old galaxy was truly gone forever. Some of the isolationist ships surrendered and asked to rejoin the hegemony. Others fled toward unexplored space, choosing exile over acceptance of the new reality. The incident marked a turning point. For the first time, humans and aliens had fought side by side against a common enemy. The alliance was no longer just a political arrangement. It had become a true partnership. 6 months later, Admiral Morrison received new orders from Earth. The USS Dakota, now refitted with hybrid human-alien technology, was being assigned to lead humanity's most ambitious exploration mission yet. They would travel beyond the galaxy itself, searching for other civilizations among the stars of Andromeda. Are you ready for another first contact situation? Dr. Barnes asked as they prepared for departure. Morrison smiled. I think we have learned a few things since the last time. The Dakota's crew now included representatives from 6 different species. The communications officer was a crystalline being who could process quantum probability languages. The chief engineer was human, but her assistants included a mechanical collective member and an aquatic Federation specialist. As the ship prepared to depart, Morrison stood on the bridge and looked back at New Horizon Station. The facility had grown enormously in the past year, becoming a major hub for trade and diplomacy between dozens of worlds. Set course for the Andromeda Galaxy, he ordered. And remember, we are not just representing humanity anymore. We are representing all the civilizations of the galactic community. The Dakota jumped to hyperspace, carrying its mixed crew toward whatever new civilizations waited among distant stars. Behind them, the galaxy continued to change and grow. Human colonies were being established on hegemony worlds. Alien research stations were being built in Earth's solar system. The age of isolation was over for both civilizations. What had begun as a tragic misunderstanding had become the foundation for something greater than either species could have achieved alone. In the years that followed, historians would debate whether first contact could have been handled better. But they would all agree on one thing. The moment humans met the hegemony marked the beginning of a new era in galactic civilization. The universe was vast and full of wonders, and now, for the first time, humans and aliens were exploring it together.